Peace and welcome everybody to the Uncensored Truth Podcast. This is your brother, old guy from Hip Hop News Uncensored. My co-host sitting to the left.
Yes, sir. SamAnt Viral Hip Hop News in the building. What's good, oh God? We got a lot to talk about today. Excited about this show, man. Let's get it cracking, man. Let's go.
Yes. Well, as we know, the other day, you heard on numerous outlets as well as Hip Hop News Uncensored that Atlanta artist Ralo was arrested on Sunday, April the 15th, and now he's being held without bond. He's actually being held on conspiracy charges to distribute marijuana. Now, he was caught, in transit of transporting 440 pounds of marijuana from California to Georgia, and he was picked up and found at the Peachtree Airport. Now, we know that Ralo was only 23 years old, and there was a particular interview that's out there that he did on Vlad TV, and himself and people around him are saying that this particular, that the feds got onto him because of his music and because obviously his interviews. Yeah. Now, he took his proceeds, what he announced in an interview, and built up an area in Georgia called Little Pakistan, where he pretty much helped people out with low-income houses. This is where they actually picked him up at. So this is an artist, before I let you expound on it. This is an artist who early on in the game admitted that he was in the drug game. And, we'll show you on the screen, here, the caption of the interview, where he admitted that he made $12 million in proceeds already, from drugs. So that, put them on the radar. Now they recently just caught up with him. What do you think about Ralo being picked up in Atlanta for transporting 440 pounds of weed from California to Georgia?
This situation is very complex because it has a lot of different angles to it. You can strip it from a lot of different ways. You can look at it from a moral perspective and knowing that he's out here building apartments and in real estate and helping out communities in need of help, probably some of his own. You have to applaud that and shout that out. Then you have the aspect of the law and what it is. He's trafficking marijuana, and whatever your thoughts on marijuana, we're definitely on this platform, the Uncensored Truth Podcast. Make sure you go up top, hit that like button.
Yes.
Are pro marijuana to the T. You know what I mean? There's so many different multiple advantages health-wise that you gain from marijuana, from anxiety, from mental health, from bowel, from this, you know what I mean? You have people with cerebral palsy, you have people with epilepsy and different kind of diseases being treated with marijuana, and it helps vastly. You never seen any deaths come from marijuana use. You don't see any extreme health risks from marijuana use, yet it's demonized in such an extreme way. It's unimaginable, but that's for another day, another time. To talk about him trafficking that much weight, we all know what the DEA, the feds, we all know what that stands for and what they work on. So it is a pretty serious offense to be trafficking and throwing that over through the air, that amount of weed, and then that kind of, that kind of pound. So it goes a lot of different ways, but to find out how they receive their information, because you would have to ask yourself, how would they get this kind of information? If it's with his own private jet, if it's with his own, team and staff, he should be straight. But like you alluded to, he did an interview, and we got the caption up now, seemingly kind of telling how he made his brand and made his money. So it goes to say, is it his fault? Is he at fault for even putting up the interview? Is the platform who did the interview at fault? Who was in his corner to tell him to shut the fuck up in that situation? What do you think about that?
Well, it's a lot of platforms out there that, I've heard a lot of people even speaking, there's main ones, they say that, they run their interviews like police interrogations. Now, this, if you listen to the interview, all you got to do is go listen. We don't have to really necessarily name names. All you got to do is go listen to the popular platforms and see how they run their interviews and see what type of information, is being asked. But you got these rappers who are willingly giving this information up. That's like if you're in a police interrogation room, he can ask you whatever. Don't mean you got to say nothing. So in this particular interview we're talking about, the headline reads, Ralo on making $12 million in the drug game and only having $3 million left. Now, when we look at what it's really about, let's get down to the nitty gritty. This is about money, revenue, and them being not being able to. He just admitted on his interview that he made $12 million without this money being taxed. He just admitted they see a young black man taking money that they consider illegal money and building up his community. This is something they don't want. I'm going to read this a statement from Ralo that he said back in February when he was picked up for driving with a suspended license. He said on his Instagram, "Young, black, smart, rich, and #1 a Muslim, the most hated guy in this country." What do you think about the aspect of him being targeted because he's a young black man who is taking, because we look at California real quick, a whole industry of marijuana where people are making money. 1,000 miles over, he gets arrested for the same thing. What do you think about that aspect?
Well, it goes twofold. Talk about marijuana real quick. And it all leads back to money, like you said, and the government not being able to control their money the way that they want to. Because if he was breaking them off, and we're not really going to get too deep, but I'm sure he would not be in this situation right now. You got a situation where you have a product in marijuana that grows abundantly. You can't control how it grows because it's naturally coming from the earth. And you have a coast in California, which spans basically from New Jersey to South Carolina. Yeah. It's huge. And marijuana is growing up and down that coast in many different ways. Mm-hmm. And now you have Colorado, you have some of your East Coast states now growing marijuana. It's in such abundance. Mm-hmm. You can't control it, which means they can't profit off of it the way they want to, which is why it's not legalized the way it should be right now. Mm-hmm. So you have that aspect of it on top of the fact that he basically just told you he made $12 million tax-free. Now, whether he was bullshitting or not, that number alone is going to raise suspicion, raise eyebrow. And we all know who watches these platforms. It doesn't matter at the end of the day what's going on, if they're being policed or not. These are real popular platforms and people are watching because they're magnified to our culture.
Right.
So it goes to show, so from an artist's perspective in a Ralo situation, he knows that kind of content will give them numbers and give him notoriety and give him attention. But what kind of attention does it lead to in the back end? Where was that person in his back thing when he was asked this question going, "Yo, homie, nah, cut that. We ain't in there." Yeah. That next question. We can't talk about that right there. I don't care how many numbers this gets. You're building a brand already. You don't need that kind of attention. You needed somebody in your corner,
right,
to try to help you with that,
right. And even on top of that, one thing they found out about him, and they tried to say that he was a part of a street game called, I hope I say this right, Fa America. If I don't know, if I might not be pronouncing it right. So that's organization. When you talk about a street gang, when you talk about the origination of the Bloods and Crips, when you do your research, originally that was designed, to be upliftment for the community,
So are they trying to get him under RICO right now?
I'm not sure about that, but they're going to hit him with a lot of conspiracy charges, trafficking. He's going to get probably a lot, taking what they consider an illegal substance, in an airplane flying. It's a whole nother thing, man.
Yeah, no,
it's federal.
It's federal. No, right. And there's no doubt about it. We talked about that early on with that. It's a serious crime that he did, even though it was definitely for a good cause. He was out there taking care of his community. He was in the real estate. He's a young brother, business-minded, sharp-minded. You just wish somebody would have been in his corner to just kind of help him and say, "Nah, dude, we ain't talking about that right now. Next question."
Yes,
because we have, and it almost goes hand in hand with the vulture. You know what I mean? And vulture has no color. Because we see a lot of social media platforms and a lot of YouTube platforms that get these kind of interviews, and they try to capitalize off the drama and off the controversy, not realizing the detrimental effect it has on the people dealing with the situation. We know kind of people close hand that go on interviews, and it gives us a bad name because we can't go in here and really listen to the content and hear your story, because you got these artists all here always thinking that there's going to be an angle when they walk into these situations.
Right.
I mean, I know personally some things that, Why don't you elaborate on that a little bit? When it comes to the platforms and us growing as a brand, and we all know YouTube now, and these kind of platforms are real popular and they're growing, and they're not going anywhere. The artists are going to start having to do these interviews. But what do you think about those people using these angles in a bad way and vulturing the culture?
Yeah,